The Tourism Department welcomed the IATF's decision to allow the gradual reopening of some leisure activities in GCQ areas. But some health experts and local executives from NCR are up in arms against this, saying lifting restrictions now might not be the smartest move. Both President Rodrigo Duterte and PNP Chief Sinas said they are willing to receive their COVID-19 shots publicly to boost vaccine confidence. Amid criticisms, the FDA justified its decision to grant compassionate use permits so the PSG can receive Sinopharm shots. And New York City reopened indoor dining on Friday, but the 25% capacity limit is causing some restaurants to opt to remain closed. Fast, focused, and fearless. Here's everything you need to know to jumpstart your weekend this Saturday, February 13th. I'm Riza Diaz. The IATF's decision to allow the reopening of some leisure activities in GCQ areas are met with mixed reactions from stakeholders. Among health experts, some are supportive of easing restrictions, while others warn that the move may have dire consequences. Maricel Halili has the story.
After being closed for almost a year now, cinemas might soon open its doors once again to moviegoers. The Interagency Task Force has allowed more businesses to open in areas under general community quarantine. Those given the green light include arcade games, theme parks, cultural centers, and even driving schools. The palace says improving trend in COVID-19 infections led to the decision.
In other words, wala po tayong problema pagdating dun sa ating utilization rate. At syempre po, alinsulit ito sa katotohanan na kinakailangan natin magbukas pa ng ekonomiya.
But guidelines both from the Health Department and local officials have yet to be released.
Sigurado po yan, nandyan yung social distancing, nandyan kung ano yung isusuot habang nanonood ng sine. No? So, antayin na lang po natin yung mga detaleng ito na i-issue ng Department of Health at ng mga lokal na mga pamahalaan.
Beginning Monday as well, church attendance in GCQ areas will be allowed up to 50% capacity from the previous 30%. As restrictions are eased, Father Jerome Ceciliano of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines, or CBCP, stressed that COVID-19 is still a threat. He urges observance of health protocols. Dr. Ron Jean Solante of San Lazaro Hospital backed the easing. But he says this should be coupled with more rigorous testing and contact tracing.
The bottom line here is that it's still important to wear and obey, be compliant with the minimum health protocol that the government has emphasized. The face shield, the face mask, and physical distancing.
But with reproduction rate in Metro Manila still around 1 and vaccination programs still to be rolled out, the UP Octa research team says opening more activities carries a higher risk of spreading infection. For News 5, Maricel Halili, we are One News. Speaking to One.
The Tourism Department welcomed this development, saying the continued reopening of the economy will help the tourism sector recover faster. The DOT says allowing cinemas, parks, and other tourist areas to reopen will bode well for the sector, which is one of the hardest hit by the pandemic. The agency adds this may also revitalize the meeting, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions or MICE sector in GCQ areas. They are also expecting that limited social events will help resuscitate DOT-accredited establishments such as parks, museums, and even other locations, and will even help address employment concerns. Now, it's not just the Tourism Department that expressed support for the reopening of leisure activities in GCQ areas. PGH spokesperson Dr. Jonas Del Rosario says that at this point, lifting pandemic restrictions is, quote, reasonable. In an interview with One News, the chiefs Del Rosario pointed out that the COVID infection rate remained manageable even after recent large-scale public gatherings such as the Traslacion. He further adds that the public just needs to be reminded to practice proper health protocols.
I think the lifting or the lessening of the lockdown is reasonable. We have to remind the people to continue protecting themselves.
Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship Joey Concepcion also backed the IATF's decision to allow more businesses to reopen in GCQ areas. In an interview with A Big Story, Concepcion said that the IATF is gradually reopening the economy while still considering the number of COVID-19 cases in the country. He adds that the objective from the very start was saving both lives and livelihoods. Concepcion also notes that the private sector is doing its best to help the government in terms of economic recovery.
Opening up the economy is so crucial to our country's future. And of course, we have to do it responsibly. And that's why the private sector is doing everything it can. It spent so much money in providing donations on testing equipment. We've spent in research for pooled PCR testing, saliva testing, and the list goes on.
President Duterte is now willing to be vaccinated publicly if his doctors will allow it. This is according to one senator who used to be the president's personal aide. He says this move is set to be an example and bolster the confidence of the people to sign up for the vaccine. Initially, the president was adamant about not getting inoculated publicly because, according to the palace spokesperson Harry Roque, Duterte will be vaccinated in his behind. Now, another government official is willing to be inoculated publicly. This time, it's PNP Chief Debold Sinas. Not only is he going to be vaccinated in public, he will also use Chinese-made vaccine Sinovac. This is an effort to boost the public trust that government-procured doses are safe after some police officers said they were hesitant to take the said vaccine. Meanwhile, Army Chief Serlito Sobejana says he will not do the same as military frontliners who will be the first to be vaccinated. The Food and Drug Administration defends its move to grant compassionate use of 10,000 doses of Sinopharm vaccines by the Presidential Security Group. The FDA explains that the CSP was granted due to the PSG's nature of work. FDA Director General Eric Domingo says those protecting the president and other dignitaries who come in contact with him should have adequate protection as well. Now, the 10,000 Sinopharm shots will cover 4,000 PSG members in Manila and Davao, while the rest will go to their close contacts or immediate family members.
As part of the personal security of the president, hindi naman sila nakakasunod dun sa mga social distancing protocols. At syempre talagang malapitan sila.
FDA Director General Eric Domingo also stressed that the PSG hospital will take full responsibility for the vaccination since Sinopharm has not yet been granted an emergency use authorization. This means neither the FDA nor the Health Department can guarantee that the shots will not have any adverse effects on its recipients.
The FDA does not guarantee the safety or the efficacy of this product. Kasama yun sa application niya that they take full responsibility for the product and its use.
And we'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. Private Motor Vehicle Inspection Centers, or PMVICs, says they are now ready to operate at a loss. This after the president announced that motorists are no longer required to go to PMVICs to have their cars inspected. For more details, here's Gerald De La Peña with a report.
There are almost no vehicles queued up in this inspection center in Paco, Manila. This follows the President's order that car owners are no longer required to go to private motor vehicle inspection centers or PMVICs for car inspection. A Senate panel even recommends its suspension. The Transportation Department has ordered PMVICs to lower their charges to just 600 pesos for light vehicles, 500 pesos for motorcycles, and 300 pesos for jeepneys. These are similar rates to private emission testing centers. Owners of PMVICs agreed to operate at a loss. They also agreed to waive the re-inspection charges for a year, but they told motorists that for the same price, they can ensure that their vehicles will be safe.
This is a good chance for you to find out if your vehicles are roadworthy for the same amount of money that you pay.
It also apologized for previous mistakes, including misdiagnosis of car deficiencies. It argued that it's just part of the so-called birth pains of new enterprises. Having said that, motorists may now choose between PMVICs and emission testing centers.
Dalawa po yan po pwede ninyong isumite. Yung emission na dati na po yan or MVIS.
The LTO says it will honor clearances that will be issued by either party. But the DOTR believes one institution would be just fine.
Ano nang silbi ng PMVIC ngayon? Kung hindi na po mandatory. Sa amin po sa DOTR, sa LTO, mananatili po ang ating pasilidad.
For News 5, Gerard de la Peña, We Are One News.
The palace clarifies that the motorists must still submit smoke emission clearances to the LTO as a requirement for vehicle registration. Palace spokesperson Harry Roque said motorists have a choice between undergoing emission testing or acquiring MVIS certificate from accredited private motor vehicle inspection centers. Roque adds that vehicle owners may opt to take advantage of the lower fees currently charged by PMVICs. New York City, once the epicenter of the pandemic, has reopened indoor restaurant dining. However, the 25% capacity limit is keeping other restaurants closed. Let's watch this.
I think the restaurants that are choosing to stay closed would say it's probably going to take 50%, maybe even 75% capacity before it makes sense for them. It depends a lot on the type of restaurant and what your costs look like to consider reopening. But I'm guessing those are the percentages that they would need to see before they felt it was viable for them.
Melissa, what are the kind of metrics do you think we need to look at to get to 50%? And how big a difference would 50% make in terms of the economics surrounding some of these restaurants?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the city restaurateurs just feel it's a fairness issue because other areas of the state right on their borders in Westchester County or Nassau County have 50% capacity and have had 50% capacity this entire time. So I think that's important. As far as what the metrics would be for the state to consider going from 25 to 50, we haven't actually been given any set of metrics as to what maybe the positivity rate or the hospitalization rate would have to be, but all our metrics are coming down, and we just need to keep on that positive trend of getting restaurant workers vaccinated and getting the capacity as high as we can, as soon as we can, so that these restaurateurs can get back into business.
Melissa, indoor dining was reopened in the fall and it only lasted less than 3 months. What would happen to restaurants in New York City and in New York State if it were to shut again after a short period of time? How many others would shut down?
Well, we're still trying to figure out exactly how many we've lost. I mean, the numbers are devastating, and you see high-profile restaurants that have been shutting down, week after week here. Everybody said that we couldn't handle a second shutdown, that we were going to lose many restaurants after that. I know the National Restaurant Association has estimated 1 in 6 restaurants has closed permanently through the pandemic. And I would expect the New York numbers would probably be even higher than that when all is said and done. It's just hard to get our hands around the numbers right now, just because, like you said, some have just chosen not to reopen at this point, and we don't know if they ever will.
And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us later at 9 in the morning as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Riza Diaz. We are One News.